So in this video, I'm going to go over some of the common errors that you see or can come across if you're using the full TeX editor. And these, you may not hit all of these, you may hit some of them. You may be better at coding than I am. In that case, good for you. I make a mistake. So I'm going to start a little ways into it. I'm going to start with a three-part question that already compiles. I'm going to go through this and I'm going to make the mistakes that are pretty common. So this question has a multiple choice question, and then it has three or it's a three-part question. It's got a multiple choice and two numerical questions. And actually, I'm noticing that this question is already wrong. Alaska is the largest state of the Union. So let's go ahead and edit this. And I'm going to change this to choice one. What else I'm going to do while I'm here? This is a common one that I make if you're accidentally writing your code or you're trying to change what's already there. It's really easy to delete that last closing curly bracket. And when you update it, you're going to get some weird things that happen. This should not compile. If it does, no, it doesn't. So you're going to get this thing where you get this kind of problem that says that your answer choices or your variables are NaN. Normally when you see the NaN part, that means you did something wrong in the coding part of this in terms of how you set up your variables. Maybe you forgot to define a variable. So go through, check your parentheses. Sometimes people will find it useful to use a TeX editor like TeX Wrangler, or if you're on a PC, I really like Notepad++. It's great for highlighting text. And it'll actually highlight the opening and closing to make sure that every curly brace is closed the right way. Another common one that happens is if you accidentally eliminate out that semicolon or replace it by a colon. Both of those are not good practices. You may get it to compile without the semicolon, but it's not a good idea. The other one that happens a lot is if you were to create a new variable, say I'm going to create a new variable called dummy, and if I were to compile this, since I don't declare the variable down here, I'm going to get another error. And this is a pretty common one. It's easy to accidentally put the right stuff in. Again, you're going to see that same type of error where you get that NaN problem. It'll show you that dummy is not defined. Sometimes this is useful if you actually look down the list. If you find the first one is not defined, a lot of times the other ones won't be. So you always check the top one first and kind of go down the list. So I'm going to go back and edit this, eliminate this one out, and let's go back to a working problem again. We'll go through some other ones. So you got to be careful on the syntax. You got to make sure you define your variables. So defining your variables, so answer1 or ANS1 is a global double. And then you also have to make sure that you set a value to it. Another question or another error that people come up with is actually up in the body section. One of the common ones is if you accidentally forget to set apart. This is not so tricky to figure out. When you actually look down, you see you have three answer choices, three declared answer choices, and I have three matching questions and explanations, 1, 2, and 3. But what's more common is if you're using the dollar signs in here. The dollar signs can give you some errors similar to how the coding is. So the dollar signs, there's either a single set or you can use a double set. And what the difference is this is calling TeX code, so calling the equation mode or the math mode that Quest will use. And if you use double dollar signs, it's on its own separate line. It's indented, centered. If you use the single, it's inline. What people sometimes have problems with is they will set one but forget to set the other. So if I eliminate out this one, so again, opening and closing brackets, the opening and closing curly brackets, opening and closing dollar signs, these can all give you different types of errors. Since this one's up in the code or in the body section and not in the code section, it's going to give us, I think, a different type of error. And you'll see that this one says that there are 24 instances of fatal TeX errors and tells me to duck. If you find a fatal TeX error, chances are it's in the body section. So you go in and you try to figure out where you're screwing up. Again, a text editor like Text Wrangler or Notepad++ can give you some assistance in finding these. Sometimes they're a little tricky to track down. Another way to try to track them down is to eliminate out, put this in this entire area, copy and paste it into Notepad, and then start adding pieces back in one by one. So maybe start off with adding, well, you have to add in all the parts, but add in the code for, this code back in first, see if it works. Then add in this, see if it works. When you get complicated problems, it's a lot faster way to solve your problems. Or at least find where they are and narrow down where you're searching. Another common mistake is using TeX code that is reserved. So one of the things that you'll notice is that this last question says, what's the average family income for the state? Well, what we want to display, it's a dollar amount, so we want to display the dollar sign. But TeX reserves the dollar sign to declare that it's going to be using TeX. So you'll see right down here, I want to put this dollar sign in. And a common mistake people will put in is they'll put in just a single dollar sign like this, and they'll say, hey, look, this right here, this is $77,367,732 if I eliminate that out. But Quest doesn't recognize this. It says, hey, you're trying to do TeX and you're missing the second closing dollar sign. So for some of these reserved characters like the percent sign or the dollar sign, if you want it to display as actual TeX, you have to use the TeX code for it. So /$ is the TeX code for displaying a dollar sign and not declaring that you're going to be using TeX. So if you don't do that, I'm actually kind of curious. I got to edit this problem. So I'm going to try to eliminate out that one. So now I have an opening double dollar sign and a closing single. I don't know what this is going to do, but this is probably a common mistake. It's been a while since I've made this one. Normally don't use dollar signs, not that I don't make the mistake. I just normally don't use dollar signs in my problems. And again, you're going to come up with that fatal TeX error because you're trying to open with 2 and close with 1, and Quest does not understand what you're trying to do. So let's go back in here. We'll put in that slash that we need, update and generate, or update the problem. Again, remember, update and generate before you publish, but you can use the update to get through and see if you have any problems. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you a mistake that's a little bit unique, and there's no real reason why this mistake shows up. But if you're using numbers, say that third part, we want to say what is our answer, and you'll see right now it says what is the average family income for the state. Your answer must be within 10%, so that was 10% was set by this tolerance, and it says the correct answer is $72,237. Well, I don't want it to be dollars. I want it to actually look like we write dollar signs out. So $72237 without the dollars. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to change what is in the unit for ANS3. So the answer 3 is going to have a unit. That unit is what displays up here. So I'm going to put in the dollar sign, and I'm going to do slash dollar sign. Like we said, it's a TeX code. We have to make sure we put in the TeX code here. And the problem is that these answer, ANS1, ANS2, ANS3, any of the ANS values are special variables, and the way that Quest has to interact with it does not allow for TeX to show up in this area. It's a common mistake. It's not common to most programming languages, just how Quest interacts with the editor. This was something that it can't actually do. So you'll notice originally, the original way I had done this is to put in the unit of dollars spelt out without using the dollar sign. So again, if you're going to put in something with percent, you want to write out the word percent. If you want to use the word dollar, or you want to put something in dollars, you want to write out the word dollar instead of using the TeX code. If you're trying to display degrees Fahrenheit, the little upper or the little circle, superscripted circle, uses TeX code, which you can't put in ANS1, ANS2, ANS3. However, any other variables that you define, you can put the units in. So it's just a little bit of a problem that people come across, and it's very specific to Quest. Unfortunately, at this point, we can't do anything about it. So these are some of the common mistakes that people will make. Syntax is by far the most common one, forgetting a parenthesis, forgetting a dollar sign, forgetting a curly bracket. The second most common one we get in is this unit part where putting TeX in the units are. So these are some of the common mistakes, so be careful with it. Just make sure you're careful when you're doing things. And in general, if you're having a problem trying to figure out what your error is and the top part up there is not that helpful for you, I suggest copying and pasting all of your body and all of your code over to a separate text pad and then start copying it in one at a time. I will say that copying and pasting into TextPad is great. Copying and pasting into Microsoft Word is a very bad thing to do. Microsoft Word has a lot of extra code that comes along with it because it's a full, rich text editor, and Microsoft pulls in a lot of the hidden characters that you don't actually see, but they could be there. So be careful of that when you're putting stuff back in. I would use TeX Wrangler if you're on a Mac, or Notepad++ if you're on a PC. Mac has a couple other choices depending on what you're trying to do, but this is the one I prefer. You can use just straight up Notepad or the straight up text editor that comes native on either of the machines, and they work pretty well. I just like these because they highlight, this one in particular, Notepad++, can highlight the text so you can see what are the common commands. It'll recognize global double as a unit, and it'll actually recognize, what these little pieces are, so it color codes things a nice way. Notepad++, if you actually run over, if you're using the arrow keys to kind of step through and move through character by character, when you get to one of the brackets, it'll actually show you what its closing bracket is, where it falls. So it's really useful for doing kind of coding parts. So thanks for watching this movie. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us, and good luck.